Hello and welcome to Live Life Driven. This is a part of the Answers Yes podcast. Thanks for tuning in. This is the week that I'm going to call it transparency, and it's going to be my own transparency in the beginning. Last week, if you follow along on the show, you'll realize that I didn't put out a show last week, so I'm a week behind. And just being transparent, I was just, too lazy. I had too many excuses. As we've talked about on the show before, Justin, who is my regular co-host on this show, is a first responder, and he has been up to his ears in his job. And Justin, I appreciate you and support you in your position and what you're going through right now. Just know that. And I've kind of used that as an excuse to not put out a show when really I should have been putting out a show in support of everybody that's out there working during what is a very challenging, tough time. And as I said, this show is going to be about transparency. And for me, I've just been, changed temporarily because of everything that's going on, sucked up into the news. I don't know what your opinion is, but the fake news media has gotten the best of me the last few days. Because I'm looking up and I see, I just wasted another 30, 45 minutes scrolling through social media and reading all the crap that's out there. It reminds me of the last election cycle. I was listening to a lot of news on my commutes. And after a couple of months of that, I was realizing when I got home that I was stressed and irritated. And it was really getting me down listening to all the news. And then I disconnected and came out of it and thought, wow, that too much news overload can really take you to places you don't want to be. So with that being said, I'm trying to lessen how much I'm looking at social media and all the negativity that's being presented out there. And there is some positive messages. I appreciate a few, and I'm going to talk about one today. But I think we should all be encouraged to steer clear of the negative messaging and find the positive things in life. And one of the things that I've been trying to do during the COVID-19 shutdown is to challenge myself daily and to be better and do more and provide more for my family and friends and people that need encouragement. I think I've been pretty optimistic through the whole thing. I managed to secure a client on a much larger basis than what I thought it would be. So financially, I've been very sound during COVID-19, and I'm very blessed for that. And I feel great about where my future is coming out of this thing. And I think it's because I challenged myself. I sought to work harder, try harder, do more. And, there was some areas that, looking back on, I feel like I could have even did more. And I suppose that's how my nature and spirit are, is that I always try to accomplish more than what I set out to do. So I'm going to come out of COVID and not be down on myself for the things that I didn't start or get to, and know that I did achieve a lot, both business and professionally and personally. Matter of fact, last weekend I had committed to doing the Spartan Virtual Trifecta, which was, they're calling the largest virtual physical event or sporting event in the world. And if you're not familiar with Spartan, they have their race series are of different distances. So they have a sprint, which is their shortest. It's a 3.1 mile, and it has obstacles to correspond with that. They have a super, which is 6.2 miles, and that has more obstacles than the sprint. Of course, it corresponds with the length of the race. And then they have a beast, which is 13 miles, 13.2 miles, and that also has additional obstacles, or in this case of the virtual, they were exercises. And if you do, and this goes for any typical season for Spartan, if you do all three of those race distances, it's called trifecta, and you earn a medal per race. And if you do all three, those medals interconnect to create a larger circle medal, and you've basically achieved a trifecta, one of each. A lot of Spartan racers will see how many trifectas they can achieve in a year. And I know I saw somebody last year towards the end of the season. They had committed and finished 17 trifectas, which, I mean, that is an incredible amount if you think about how many races that is and how many days of the week you have to train and actually go race, and they don't happen in the same city and state, so you're traveling all over the place. So anyways, I saw the opportunity to compete in this virtual Spartan trifecta. I'd been training pretty good since the beginning of the year, and I felt good enough to do the trifecta. And I put my mind to it, and I had a great weekend doing that. It was the first time I'd ever done a trifecta after racing Spartan for 5 years. I've had some race weekends where I've done 2 races, but never 3. I have completed trifectas in the entirety of a season, but nowhere near 17. I think the most I had was 3. I felt great. I did the Beast on Saturday, 13 miles. It was pretty hard. Sunday, I did the sprint early in the morning. That was okay. But by the time I got to the Super in the afternoon of Sunday, I was pretty exhausted and wanted to, I don't want to say I wanted to quit, but there was a lot of times where I just thought, why am I doing this? And at the end of it all, I just felt so accomplished that I'd finally did a trifecta weekend for Spartan and completed the miles and the exercises and was a part of something much bigger, which is the Spartan Tribe. And Joe DeSena, who created Spartan, his mission statement is get 1 million people off the couch. And I thought, well, if nothing else, maybe I can influence a few people to get off the couch and do or consider doing a Spartan trifecta. So I posted some things on my social media, and I'm on the other side of it now, and I felt great. Physical fitness and the desire to do it comes and goes almost on a daily basis. If that's something that you're involved with, I think that it's an important component of being successful in business. But to get up in the morning and get out there and do your workout or your run or your CrossFit or whatever it is you're doing, it takes a lot of desire and motivation. And I've been struggling with that the last couple months. I say that being transparent. I struggled with it, and it's not always easy. And I managed to get enough physical fitness in that I competed in that trifecta, and I think I did pretty well. But, even after the trifecta, the last week and a half, I've just been struggling to get back out there. And this morning, I was reading my book by Jocko, and he talked about discipline, and the only person that can control discipline is you. And having the discipline to get up and get after it is what motivated me today to get out there and get my 6 miles in. So I want to challenge you to have discipline and challenge yourself to do more. And hopefully you'll see some results from that discipline and the challenging of yourself. Maybe write down those goals that we've talked about, become self-aware of what's important to you, and focus on both. And I'd be really curious to know what people did while we've been in lockdown. As we start to come out of it and states start to open up, what things did you accomplish during lockdown? I'd love to hear those things. Send me an email or a message on social media, and let's talk about it. Let's bring them up as topics. If you manage to start a business, I'd be happy to support that business through the show. If we can promote it or drive traffic to your website or whatever it is you're trying to do, because that's what we do. We help one another. And like I mentioned, thought I would share some things that I've learned, and that's typical what this podcast is all about. I have become a follower of Andy Frisella from First Form. I've always enjoyed their products. I've talked about Andy's 75 Hard with Justin before, but Andy also has a podcast, and it's called Real AF. And I don't know if that's for Andy Frisella or Real as Fuck, but either way, I enjoy it. I've been enjoying it the last few weeks. I've listened to all the shows to try to get caught up. And if you're looking for some real data and advice about business and current state of affairs, I'd encourage you to check it out. And I thought I'd give you a little taste of Andy, because since I started listening to the podcast, I signed up for his newsletter. And very appropriately, the newsletter that came through today was one that is fitting for the show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read it. It's not very long, but I think that the message here is so loud and clear, it's worth reading and spending the minute or two that it's going to take to read it. And it's titled, What the Axe Can Teach You About Success. It says, everyone wants to know the secret to success. People spend their whole lives looking for it. For years, I've thought about what I would tell someone the secret was if I had only a minute to tell them. And I found the answer is in the axe. And there's a picture of an axe and a piece of wood here. The axe is such a simple tool, but incredible tool. It's not complicated. It's not fancy. It's not glamorous. It is extremely effective. It's been a tool that's literally shaped our landscape, built civilizations, and provided for families for hundreds of years. There are 4 aspects to making an axe effective. Number 1, effort. You got to swing the axe. No trees get cut down with the axe laying on the ground. You got to swing it hard. And I think effort's something that we all have to remember in our daily lives. Is it takes effort to get something done. You have to put out your own effort. I'm in the sales business, and a lot of people, they want to know the secret of sales. And it really is about putting the effort out. I always talk about, if you're out on the streets, you're going to make the sale. But if you're sitting at home waiting for it to come to you, it's never going to happen. So effort is so important. His second point is consistency. You have to hit the tree in the same spot over and over and over again. It does you no good to go up and down the tree swinging wildly. You have to hit your mark many, many times. And that's so true of life too, in things that you start. And it's very appropriate coming out of COVID. Having consistency in your daily regimen or working out or in your business, over time that consistency pays off. And oftentimes people start a business and they just think it's going to take off right away. Well, I'm a big believer in the longer you do something and the more you try and the more consistent you are, that's when it's going to succeed. I don't care if it takes you 1 year or 10 years. Eventually, you will see success if you're consistent. Because people will buy in. They'll believe. They'll see that you're serious about what you're doing, and they'll want to support you. Andy's third point is self-awareness and personal development. You have to have a sharp blade. It does you no good to pound away at the tree as hard as you can in the same spot with a dull blade. You have to notice when the blade gets dull, take a minute, step back, and sharpen it. Same goes for your own personal skills, educating yourself, asking for help, not being afraid to ask for help, looking for advice, having that self-awareness to know who you are and really what motivates you and gets you going. So it's an excellent point about the axe. And then his final one is patience and perseverance. Even if you swing as hard as you can in the same spot with the sharpest blade, cutting down a tree takes time. You can't do it in just a few swings. You have to keep it going until the tree starts to fall and gravity brings it all the way down. The axe is amazingly simple, yet labor intensive, just like success in anything. So I love that, and what's actually pretty appropriate for me is that last weekend we had a pretty big storm here with heavy winds, and the neighbor's trees fell down across his driveway, and he's in his late 70s, has no business out there with a chainsaw and an axe trying to chop that up. So my wife and I went over there with the neighbor Kyle to help out, and we had one chainsaw and one axe, and I managed to have the axe for a little bit of that time, and I realized what an incredible tool it is, just as he suggested. The effort, the self-awareness, the consistency, and the patience. But when it's used right, that axe works great. And I was surprised at how well the axe worked. And to me, this message just really comes alive after actually holding that and using it. All those things come into play, and I can easily see the comparison between this axe and life. So I would encourage everybody to think about that. And as I suggested, we want to give people tools to work with. And I've been a big fan of Andy's this last couple weeks in his Real AF podcast. I like to think about, goals and self-awareness. And part of that is dreaming about things, thinking about things, and visualizing things. And all those are great components of having success or creating a business. So it's okay to dream about it. It's okay to think about it. But visualization really takes you to a new spot. I've learned a lot about visualization and how important it is. When I'm running, I visualize the finish line with Spartan. I visualize my competition. I visualize the terrain. Matter of fact, at the end of July, Spartan is finally going back into having live events. And last year I ran Utah. I did pretty well out there. And I'm already visualizing what the terrain looks like as I'm training here now, because I know through visualization it's going to get me going. And I think a lot of that is me feeling my own inner coach and using my inner coach to give me the drive to keep going and to teach me those things or remind me of those things I've learned along the way, like visualization, thinking, and having challenges.